Welcome to All Inclusive, a podcast about game development and the diverse people who make it. My name is Ash, and I'm an environment artist in North Carolina, USA.
And my name is Jasmine. I'm an environment artist from Cologne, Germany.
Today's special guest is Deana. They are the founder and creative director at Captilight and work with Girls Make Games. Thanks for coming on today, Deana.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you. This is one of the rare times we actually got an inquiry.
I know.
For a guest, and we were both so excited to see your email. And we're like, oh my God, yes, we need to get her on. And we're so happy that you could make it so short notice too. So thanks so much for finding the time.
Yeah, thanks very much. I saw and about, just learned about it and from the House of Peeps Discord, and I was like, oh my God, this sounds so cool. I have to talk to these people.
That's kind of cool that it's being. I think who runs it? It's Danny runs that server, right?
Yeah.
I love Danny. Danny is a good egg. And it warms my heart that she's sharing the podcast in the server and stuff like that. That makes me really happy.
That's so nice. Shout out to Danny.
Shout out to Danny. Really, but again, like Jasmine said, thanks for coming on today.
So just to kind of kick off our little talk today, we would love to know how you actually got into the industry, what interests you in particular, and what were your first steps that got you into the game industry, made you think, yes, I want to be here and I'm going to stay.
I guess I've always kind of been around games. Like my mom, growing up, she loved the Tomb Raider series. So I kind of watched her playing that on the original PlayStation for a long time, and then eventually I started playing games. Really got into the MMO type games like Terra, Guild Wars.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really immersed in that. And then I don't remember if it was middle school or high school, but we had a career day, and this woman came in and she was like, "Hey, I write stories for games." And a light bulb just kind of went off in my head, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I could actually do this as a career." It never really came across my mind. And then from that moment on, I kind of just planned on going to university, and recently got my master's in game development and design. So it's kind of been a that moment was really a big pivotal moment for me. Don't remember the name of that woman, but she really changed my life.
Oh.
Bless. I think that that's kind of a discussion that I've kind of seen in game art spaces, is that there's always kind of this conversation about how can we get more women kind of involved in game dev. And I think your story is kind of a great example of how you do that, because I think that even me, I didn't know that I wanted to go into art until someone sat down with a big giant career book, and an animator was in the book, and I was like, wait, you can do that? I feel like that's so doing game art and art and stuff like that, if you think about it now, it makes sense, because it's of course someone makes this.
Yeah.
Of course someone spends time and has a job doing stuff like this, but I don't think it's as spoken or shown as an example or whatever to people as much as it maybe could be. And I think that sometimes just giving people the opportunity to be exposed to something kind of just opens up more doors. I think then we may realize, because you said you went, what point of your life was that, in high school, or when someone came by and was showing you stuff about game art or art and stuff? When was that again, Deana?
I can't remember if it was later in my middle school years or my high school, but
that's pretty.
It might have been high school, because I think high school they start drilling career information in your head.
It's interesting that they already offered you something towards even games, in my school, like in high school, they would always go with the very typical jobs, like I
Yeah.
don't know, doctors, lawyers,
Mm.
whatever, even carpenter and stuff like that. But but like creative jobs, I think that's really nice that a school would even recommend that. And after that, did you go to university for a game specific course, or how did you continue when you suddenly had that knowledge of that? Oh, I could go into games. That's actually an option after high school.
Yeah, I think it right when, that encounter happened, I told my mom about it and she was like super supportive about it, and
Oh,
I
We
looked
love to
into
hear
it.
it.
yeah.
Oh
Very
yeah,
good.
I was like, I always heard stories of like, parents sometimes aren't always super supportive. I mean, she, mentioned, oh, you may not make a lot of money because, creative stuff,
Mm-hmm.
has that stigma, but uh, but yeah, she was always super supportive, which is awesome. But yeah, I looked into different schools. Luckily, Florida has some of the top rated schools for game design. We have like Full Sail, University of Central Florida. So, and I was living in Tampa at the time, and UCF wasn't too far. It's like a city
Sure.
that's like 2 hours north.
Yeah.
So yeah, I looked into that and finished high school and went there for my BA.
Yeah. I think like support, like it's like I think it's like because I kind of had a similar thing with my parents, and like I was always a creative child. Like if we were to go from like the very stereotypical like left and right brain sort of thing that
Mm.
is
Hmm.
not really like science, but like if we're gonna use that for like 2 seconds, I was always very much so like a right brained child. So like I was into music and choir and piano and like art and loved glitter glue and red crayons and stuff. And so I think there was always kind of like a sense that I would want to do something creative, even though I had other skills elsewhere. And um, it was kind of nice that my parents were supportive of it. I think they just wanted me to like, I think when I think about it, like my mom was like, you can pick whatever you want, you just have to like pick it and know that that's your choice, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So it's like whatever
Hmm.
that comes with, like you have to like navigate it,
Mm.
because I would have to navigate it myself, and uh, not having like pushback, I guess, I think makes a world of a difference because
Yeah.
having family members or parents that kind of push back against what you want to do can be really damaging, especially in your young formative years, even though I still think that I'm in my formative years, but like when you're like a kid, and I don't know, like if you're the type of kid especially who just wants to like make their parents proud, it can be kind of hard if your parents don't get behind what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think it's a good example to hear that for all three of us, because my mom was the same. She was very supportive, was probably because she was also from like a creative field, I guess, and went for architecture. But she got like some pushback back from my grandparents because they were worried that it's also not a job where you earn money. It's like I think a big issue probably that people like parents especially are scared that their kids are not going to have security, and it's a valid reason,
Right.
I think, because you don't
Absolutely.
want your kids to just be out there in the world working hard and not getting any compensation for it, which can happen in the industry. So she wasn't even that wrong, probably. But it's good to have that support anyway, even if there's the risk of it not working out or anything. Just having that security from home and having people that want you to pursue what you're passionate about is makes the biggest difference. And I hope that we maybe also as parents at some point in our life, if we want children, I'm not saying that we have to, but that we just carry on that kind of sentiment like in our generation, I think too.
Yeah, I think you can do it like aside from like if someone decides to have children or not. I think you can kind of just like cultivate that in your community too. Like if you're
Yeah,
around like a niece or like a cousin that's
exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
young, and or like someone's friend's kid brother or something, or
Yeah.
you're babysitting, uh and they're interested in doing like artistic related
Yeah.
things, or just like, I don't know, I think like just being supportive of kids' dreams, like in general, are is just going to be more positive
Yeah.
for them. So always trying to build like a positive community,
Yeah.
positive spaces, positive spaces for your children. Um, but
And but yeah, when you then went to university, Deana, what was it like for you there? Did you know straight away in what field within games you want to go into, or did you just kind of try different aspects of game development out? Because like some courses kind of give you the option, I guess, to try different things out. I'm not sure what it was like in your course. Could you maybe describe to us how that time was for you?
Yeah, I think the program was called, it was like under the digital media program, and you can
Hmm.
pick a track, and they had the game design track, and that's what I did. So it was a lot of like general theory type of stuff around
Mm.
game design, but they also teach you a little bit of everything, like the 3D modeling programs, Photoshop, all that good stuff. Um, but yeah, I kind of always knew I wanted to do something in game design or level design. Like I always, as much as I love drawing art, I wasn't good at it. And I tried learning programming on my own. It just didn't really click with me. So I tried to look into stuff that I might be okay, not 100% of the time doing those things.
Hmm.
And I kind of specialized in doing my classes and stuff. I really like doing like the world building and wireframing, user flows, all of that fun stuff. So I kind of made sure to gear myself towards game design.
Hmm. That sounds good. And did you already back then have like the ambition to go further in a sense that you have your own studio, or that you are like a lead in a way? Like, did you already experience that kind of position in your maybe in your student projects, or is that something that came later after you finished university?
It really came later. A lot of my projects, I mostly took on the role of like designer,
Hmm.
and yeah, actually, I never really thought in my head like of having my own studio. I finished school and told myself I was, wanted to stay in Florida, and we don't have a lot of like AAA studios or anything
Hmm.
here, so it's very like kind of had the expectation that I might be mostly working in like indie games or like startups.
Hmm.
And that's kind of where I've actually been sticking towards. But yeah, I finished when I finished my BA. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going back to school. Like, I'm just gonna work now.
Smooth.
and then, and then 6 months later, I was like, no, I really miss like learning new stuff and being in that
Mm.
like learning type of environment where you could just like mess up and learn new things and stuff. So I ended up going back for my master's at SCAD but I did it online because I didn't want to like have to move out
Yeah.
from where
yeah,
I was. So that was
Oh,
really
that's
nice.
awesome. And what was it like doing your master's? Was it also in game design, or in what field was it?
Yeah, it was in game design. The official title was it was like game development and interaction design,
Oh, okay.
and it was really cool because I actually offer like a lot of really in-depth like game design classes and game art classes. And I got to take. They actually have a class just for game design documentation, and
Oh,
that was amazing. Like I freaking loved that class. It's actually where I started like some of the initial concepts for a game that we're working on now called Path of Kami. Kind of
wow. Oh,
had its original concepts made around that time. But yeah, it was really nice. It kind of built off of where like when you're doing your BA, it goes a lot of like the general like top
hmm.
level stuff of like everything for like 3D modeling, design, and all that. And then for the masters, it was really going in depth on those programs and like theory and all of that fun stuff.
That's nice actually that you decided to go back, because I think maybe for a lot of people there's this pressure after you finish uni you should like work straight away. But even
Mhm.
if you don't feel maybe ready yet or feel like you want to continue learning, I think it's great to just go back and do that, especially if you have the option. If you have even online classes, that's even better, I think.
Oh,
um,
for sure.
that's great. And when you say how much you learned, that's helping you now, even. I think that's a great choice. Like, I think really everyone should decide for themselves what works best. And I think we mentioned in another episode as well that we shouldn't rush things. Like, just
Yeah.
take your time and do things that you would like to do, and yeah, go for it. Like, don't get pressured that everyone in the industry is, I don't know, working here or there. Like, just go your path and
Mm.
learn and grow and find that time for yourself to figure out what you want to do. And it must have worked out great for you, because now you have your own place where you're working at and can even use all that knowledge that you got through your studies. That's amazing.
Hmm. I
Thank
think
you.
that like when it comes to, I don't know how the best way to kind of describe it, but I think the idea of continuing education is always going to be a good thing. And I think
Yeah,
for people, depending on their financial situation, living situation, whatever, it's going to mean something different for everyone. And
yeah,
like, it's not, I think sometimes we can be sold this idea that like, oh, I should be at the peak of knowledge after like a first round of like education. But when
yeah,
in reality, I think not only in art, but in a lot of fields, you're always going to be learning things. You're always going to need more training. You're always going to need to kind of catch up to um, new techniques and how people are doing things and stuff like that. And like sometimes for someone that means like going and getting their master's like you did, or for me it meant taking classes at CGMA and finding some mentorship at opportunities or whatever. And like I think as long as you kind of keep that student mentality of like
yeah,
there is a lot of stuff to learn, um I
Hmm.
think it's gonna only have positive outcomes
yeah.
for a person. Like there's always something to learn, and I think it is good, and we
Yeah.
should keep learning as a people.
Yeah,
Oh, for
because we're
sure.
gonna have a hard time if you're not open for learning. Like, I've met people
Absolutely.
who are like so stuck in their ways and they don't want to get out
Mm,
of that. And
mm,
that's, I think, an issue when you especially work in such a fast-paced industry, where, as you said, there's new techniques, there's new programs, there's new ways to
yeah,
do things.
yeah,
Like, you got to have that mentality. It's so healthy to have. So yeah, that's a great starting point. If you're already eager to learn, go for it.
for sure. I think it has something to do with like flexibility, also just being kind of like
Yes,
open to
yeah,
learning things. And I think that's maybe, I think that counts as like one of those soft skills that we talk
yeah,
about but aren't really sure maybe how to help people get up to speed with or whatever, is like
yeah.
just being kind of down to learn things and stuff. So um yeah, chill stuff. So kind of moving on to topic number two. You founded your own studio, which, you know, for a person like me who's very disorganized, I can't imagine. Um, and it seems like a really like big sort of feat to kind of like take upon yourself. So like, how did you do that? Like, what kind of like steps do you go to like make your own studio, and what was that kind of thought process like trying to be like, oh man, maybe I should do this or maybe I shouldn't do this? Like, just could you tell us a little bit about what goes through your mind when you um were thinking about founding your own studio?
Hmm. Yeah, actually, I originally unofficially founded it back in 2018. I was still
Okay.
going to UCF, and I had this game idea, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna, work on this." And then, I'm not a programmer. I'm not like an artist, so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to make a team." And then project ended up falling through just because we're all full-time students. Um, so I just kind of used that brand for freelance work throughout the years. And, when I went to SCAD and started working on Path of Kami, I was like, no, I'll probably have to, officially make it like an actual studio legally and all of that. And through that time frame, I worked through like a lot of indie game studios and startups. So I learned a lot about um, the business side of like managing the studio and stuff. So that helped me a lot and got me connected with a lot of awesome people. So I reached out to a friend that's a game lawyer, and he helped me do all the legal
Wait,
side of things
hold
of
on.
officially having a
A
studio.
game lawyer. Hold on.
Damn, that's interesting.
Like
Yeah.
he gives you his business card. It says a game lawyer. Like what? Is it? Is that like? I'm trying to like understand. Is it just like a normal lawyer, but they're like versed in like game stuff? Like it's a subset, or is it just like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, it's kind of
See,
like how
I
we have,
didn't know you could do that.
they'll say like game. Oh, sorry.
No. I was just exclaiming that like again, it's one of those things where it's like I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I didn't really like think about it until like you start meeting all these people and like conferences and stuff, and it just like really opens your eyes to like all the different disciplines that are out there. But yeah, it's just going to law school and then deciding to specialize in he does like video game like IP stuff and content creation, and
Mm-hmm.
he at some point I think he was like a some type of like Xbox um content creator ambassador program thing. I
Okay.
can't remember the exact name, but yeah, he was always like into that, and then decided to go to law school.
So when you met him, he helped you like with the legal side of things of making a studio, like from unofficial to official, basically.
Yeah, he helped me register it as like an LLC, like through like our state
Oh
website and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then help me with all my like the contracts that we need for whenever we need like freelancers or contributors and
Oh,
contractors, all of that. Um, and yeah, whenever I have questions about trademarking or um, legal side of like using specific names and stuff, like he helps out with that too, which is awesome.
Oh. Yeah. I feel like that would be a very dicey situation to navigate by yourself.
For sure.
for
I'm like, I
sure.
don't know anything about law. Can you help me, please?
Yeah, that's me with law, that's me with taxes, that's me with a lot
Oh
of
gosh, yeah.
adult things. I'm just here. I'm just a machine for art. Don't ask me for anything else, you know? But that's neat. I kind of also wanted to know what being a creative director means as it relates to the work that you do at Captilight, because like we have all these like titles and stuff with pod with uh game art companies and things like that, and sometimes the word usage can just be weird. Like different
Mm,
things mean different things at
yeah.
different places. So can you explain to us what a creative director is for you?
Hmm. Yeah, I think in our sense, we use it sort of like a person that kind of holds the overall vision of the projects that we work on.
Mhm.
Everything from like the gameplay feel, user flow, marketing presentation, like branding, all of that good stuff, and kind of working with the team to get everybody on the same page and kind of understanding like that vision of the game.
That when I think about it, like it sounds very similar to what Lindsay in our last episode of All
Yeah,
Inclusive was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
describing, which she does as an art director. Do you guys at Captilight have also an art director that does like another set of tasks, or do you kind of merge that into the creative director role that you are having?
Yeah, we have a creative director. He is amazing. His name's Jose Beltran.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, he works more with like the like I might have like a certain idea, for example, of like an art style, and then he'll take
Mhm.
that, um, do like a bunch of mood boards and help me kind of visualize like what, like more specifically, what the artist would need to be able to act on that and do that art style. So he helps. He does like a lot of the like actual art side of things, and I'll be
Mm.
like, oh, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not sure, but maybe do this and that, and then he'll do the concepts and really finalize what that art style is.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess then the creative director is the more broad picture, and then it gets narrowed down by your art director. And then I guess you have other people in the studio who will then put it into the game, I guess, like the 3D artists, UI, programming, design, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly how you said it. I do more of like the high level stuff where like I'll
Oh,
come
okay.
up with the vision, with the general direction, and then I'll work with the team to make it happen. And then I also do a lot of the um, communications between like working with our producer and like the team leads, and then also like working with the translators and figuring out publishing side of things and all of that fun stuff.
Hold on, translators. My you've piqued my interest. What are you like translating? As in, like, not that unless there's another word for translating, doesn't mean putting something from English into something else. Like, what languages are you translating for? Like,
Oh yeah, we
uh,
so the game that we're working on, like we're trying to have it translated, like localization, to different languages. Right now, we're thinking about Chinese, Japanese, and Spanish are our main ones
oh
right now.
Awesome.
So kind of working with the
yes,
translators to get all the in-game
yes.
content translated.
Uh, I'm very biased. I'm very excited about the Japanese option. Very
Oh, me
excited.
too, me too.
Yeah, that is if anyone knows me, they know that I love Japanese. So I'm very excited about that. That's a lot of work though. Like goodness,
Yeah.
like so glad that I don't run a company. Like I'm so glad that I am a art machine and that's it because it seems like there's just so much to kind of like juggle and keep up with and um like I feel like there might be a lot of putting out fires or whatever impromptu that you didn't really realize that would happen until they happen and stuff like that. Like it's a lot to kind of keep up with and like like for you, what do you think are like the skills that someone would need to kind of like be a successful creative director in a smaller like sort of indie space?
Being familiar with like all the different disciplines, I think, is very helpful, so that we can kind of empathize with like what they're doing and kind of understand like the production side of things. Um, and I think knowing like being able to like pitch to clients and the team and really like motivate and like inspire them to get behind like a game idea is really good. Like hyping them up. And yeah, I think it's also really helpful. I mean, I wouldn't say it's required, but I think it's super helpful to like know like the business side of things. Like knowing how to work with like the publishers, for example, and how that process works.
Do you have like any good resources for that maybe? Because I think that's like the big mystery maybe to many people. Like
Yeah,
as
or
Ash said, like the whole business side, even for us as
oh,
artists, is like the most daunting side of things, I think. And
Oh
many
yeah.
people like
for sure.
forget about that we need to be well like versed in that too. So how did you like wrap your head around all that?
Yeah, did you just kind of learn it by like on the fly kind of as you kind of just did it a little bit more each time or did someone kind of like take you under their wing and show you what you should be doing or what was up with that?
There's a few resources online that kind of explains the process of it all, but I didn't really fully understand it until um, I worked at some studios and kind of went through that process, and then I freelance for a publisher, which has a lot of my information has come from like it. Just like experience has been super helpful. A lot of the information I know now is just mostly through experience, and I would really wish there was more resources out there to learn. I know there's a really awesome book out there. I think it's called like the Game Dev Business Handbook.
Mhm.
Um, I can probably grab the name of it later, but that was super helpful. It kind of talks about a lot about the publisher side of things and business and the not so fun stuff.
Honestly, I feel like if there's not sort of like, how do I even word this sentence? I think that the more knowledge there is about a certain thing, the better. Like, we have a lot of websites out here that will have a bunch of tutorials for like game art and things like that, and
Yeah.
I think it would be really like beneficial, I think, if, not that I'm going to like say, hey, you should do this, but I'm going to say, hey, you should totally consider, like sharing your knowledge somehow, with how to approach things like this, like if it's in the form of like an article or like a wiki page or something. I don't know. I think that like just kind of peeling back the curtain and making these things a lot more approachable and easy to like digest. And since you have like that knowledge from like more the business side and also the artistic side, I think you have a great opportunity to kind of be a liaison for like those two sides and say things in ways that I can understand, and then say things in a way that someone on the more business side can understand. Like, basically help us, Deana.
Yeah, we're
Help
begging
us.
you.
We need the help.
I'm always down to help. I try to do like marketing tips and stuff on my Twitter as much as I can, but
Yeah,
Oh,
I never
nice.
there's just so much on the business side. I never really know like how to really categorize and like what specific
Mm.
questions to answer, I guess. Like
sure.
but yeah, I'm always down to help. If anyone or if you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Yes.
Definitely.
We have the excuse to bother you now.
Yeah,
Excellent.
it's on
Excellent.
record.
That's right. You can't take it back now. All these people listening are our witnesses. um, but yeah, cool. We're gonna stop right there for a little break.
Welcome back to All Inclusive. Before the break, we talked about how Deana entered the industry and what it's like working as a creative director, founding your own studio. So, really exciting stuff. And moving on from that, you told us about that you're actually working with Girls Make Games, where you talk at universities. And we were wondering, is there anything specific you think could help to make the industry look more inviting, especially for young girls who want to get in there? And also maybe shortly explain what your role is in the Girls Make Games initiative.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it earlier, but just kind of like bringing awareness around like games as a career choice. Like I know that when you're doing like forums and stuff, normally you wouldn't see like computer games as like an option, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so just bringing more awareness there, and yeah, just working with awesome organizations, initiatives, sort of like Girls Make Games, and to make the industry more inviting. I think really like in the hiring process, like showing that you're promoting inclusivity and diversity, and not just showing that like in the job ads or your website and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
also with like your management team, like making
Yeah.
sure like everything is good there, and just like overall language as well.
Mm-hmm. And within Girls Make Games, because the thing is, I don't think we have that in Germany. I've always seen how the US has this, and I think the UK too. And I think it's such a great initiative because, as I understood it, you go to schools and make games like with younger girls and get them to like engage more with game development. What exactly do you do there, and what was your experience like working with like younger girls on making games?
Yeah, it first started out with doing like a summer camp, like before
Mm.
COVID. It was it was really cool. They did like these in-person summer camps where they would host them at like different AAA studios. Like I got sent to
Oh.
California to do one at PlayStation, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a whole summer where I got to teach girls from like I believe it was like 10 to like 16, 17, something like that.
Oh, okay.
How to use Unity, and they have like a really cool um like asset pack. So they don't directly do the coding, so it makes things a lot more accessible for them to be able to build things. So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
pack of really cool tools that they can use to make their games. And we taught them game design and like how to use some friendly like art programs and stuff. So we worked with them to make games, and I
Mm-hmm.
did that for one summer. And then when COVID hit, they would do like online virtual workshops and summer camps and stuff like that. So I was kind of doing the same thing, but virtually.
Mm-hmm. And what's the response like? Do you have a lot of girls coming to these events, and do they have like any prior knowledge about like games or anything in particular? Is it like their first time engaging with it?
For the in-person summer
Mm-hmm.
camp that we did, there were some, since Girls Make Games had been doing it for a few years, there were some people that came back and kind of already knew like how to do stuff. When we switched over to doing virtual classes, it was a lot of like first timers, and getting like the whole game idea and their game design side of things. It was completely new. But it was really crazy because these girls are so talented. Like throughout like a couple of days throughout the week of meeting, um, for example, the most recent one I did, we taught them how to use Construct 3 and to make like a platformer type of game.
Oh, nice.
And oh my gosh, I remember this one girl like made her whole like the goal at the end of the class was to have like a level with like small
Mm.
enemies and things you can collect and stuff. And gosh, she had like hidden areas in there and like all these other fun stuff. I guess she outside of class she did her own research and learned all this new stuff from like tutorials and all that. But yeah, that still like leaves a big impression on me. But they're very excited to like be learning and making games. And anytime like they do a script and it works, it's like super exciting for them to see it like working.
Oh, that must be really rewarding to see, I think, especially seeing that there is interest and against many people's beliefs that girls are just not interested in tech stuff or games. That's
Yeah,
the
where's that?
contrary.
What is
Yeah,
that?
where did that come
Exactly.
from?
Where did that come from? I think that, like, again, like with initiatives sort of like this, like it kind of just goes to show that if you give people the opportunity, if you make things available to them and accessible, like
Yeah.
you'll get more of a response than you think you will. Um,
Mhm.
like obviously everyone's journey is going to be a little bit different when it comes to like games or whatever. I know for me, I didn't intend to go into games. I kind of it just happened or whatever, um for whatever reason. And like I think that if we can continue to give, you know, girls more um kind of safe spaces to like interact with tech stuff, because that could kind of be a little bit of a minefield sometimes. Like I think you'll
Yeah.
see a lot more people um like being excited about it and engaging with it and doing cool like problem solving and things like that when it comes to um like game art and more technical related industries and stuff like that. um and like it kind of makes sense to have stuff like that, because like it's probably again like a societal sort of thing where um like I think there's a couple things kind of going on. Like game art isn't that old? Question mark. It's like in the state that we see it in right now is a bit newer. Like you're gonna have people in the next couple decades trying to figure out about like what retirement looks like as a game dev, because they
Yeah.
were there when it first started like getting Steam and stuff like that. And I think because game art is kind of like a newer um sort of frontier or whatever, maybe that's also, well, not even maybe, I think that's also why some of the kind of inclusivity of the industry is kind of a little bit behind than what maybe some people would like it to be. But having, because like when you think about it, like I know when I was like in middle school, I went to a summer camp for marine biology for whatever reason, and like and like you have summer programs and things like that kind of out there to kind of like get kids interested in things in a fun way that's accessible to them and that they can understand and interact
Mm-hmm.
with. And the same thing should be, and I'm glad to see that it is happening with things in game art and technical things, technical industries and stuff like that, because like that sort of thing should be available to people. And
Exactly.
I think people will be a lot more surprised to find like just how many girls are interested in like video game things. Losing my words.
Exactly.
It's just it's been so coded as like male for the longest time, but I think that like
Yeah.
you look around, it's actually like there's still a lot of like work to be done, but I think it's becoming more and more diverse in a positive way as time goes on.
Yeah.
For
I guess
sure.
you have to break that whole stereotype of it, because the
Yeah.
whole like computers and programming, since that all like started from, I don't know, the 60s and 50s, it was a very like male dominant medium, and because it was made with the military together and all that, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that's been made in a time where women just didn't have the opportunity to even access these technologies. So it really should now be the time to open it up and just break all those walls that people built over the years, just break them away, so we don't end up with a situation that's like prevalent in other industries and jobs where men have been there for centuries and whatever, and you can't even go in there as a woman comfortably. So having these type of things and showing young girls from so early on that it is an option to do this and it's fine and they have this safe space, it's amazing. So I think it shows like how you said that there's these girls who are so keen to learn things and do their own research even. It's yeah, I think it's really inspiring to see. Do you actually know if any of them pursued to make games like later again too, or if they like plan to go to university or anything like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't have contact with them outside of the class, but I
Oh yeah,
remember,
makes sense.
uh, just for like, security reasons, but I
Yeah.
remember asking like, hey, anybody ever thought about games as a career? And I would ask at like the beginning of the class and then the end, and a lot of times like there was like a lot of interest, which is really awesome to hear. And
Mm,
I think back to like what we were talking about earlier, I think it's like really cool to be growing up as a kid right now because there's like
yeah.
so many like more kid friendly games. I feel like
Mm,
Minecraft and Roblox. Like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, I hear about Roblox and Among Us now all the time whenever I'm like teaching classes.
Yeah, Roblox is really accessible. Like I know from my partner, he would make games with that when he was 10 or something, and because they have it
Wait,
very accessible.
hold on. It's been around that long? Sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
like okay. So this just goes to show just how little I know about game things. I didn't know it was that. I didn't know it was that old. Like yo, like I was not a gamer growing up. I didn't play Minecraft. I didn't really play
Me
anything like
neither.
that.
Yeah.
So like I thought Roblox was like in the past 5 years, but it's 10 years old or something.
It's
Wait,
really old. Like right,
what?
like we are 24 now. Yeah, so he was playing it 14 years ago.
What?
I'm
Yeah.
That's
actually
crazy.
I didn't know it was 10 years either. I thought it was
Hold
Really?
on. Hold on.
but
It's
no.
really old. Like my partner would say he would make games on it, and he had like his own
Bro.
game modes, and people would ask him to make more levels of the thing he was doing, and
I
like I think it's great actually that yeah, as a kid you can make these things, and especially now that it's more known, because I also never heard of Roblox until yeah a couple of years ago. So I think there
listen.
really needs to be maybe more initiatives even using these things, that these games that are already out there, and show kids that they can make all these super creative things with them.
Just for the record, Google says that Roblox first released in 2006.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What?
Yeah.
What
So
was
it's
I
like,
doing in 2006? Binging
right, same
anime?
here. I was just playing Animal Crossing probably, but
Oh my word! Today I learned that Roblox is older than some children.
it's
Wow,
crazy. But
I
it's
know.
nice to see that it's still alive, and it makes people, like kids especially, inspires them to even make games in that playful way. It's same with Minecraft. Like when you see how kids make all these like adventure park inside Minecraft, or these themed Harry Potter levels or whatever.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's inspiring. It makes me excited that, as you said, that it's an amazing time to be a kid right now.
Absolutely, for sure. So moving on to our final topic for this episode. Kind of wanted to know your thoughts about how you can make an inclusive space within studios and like indie or whatever, and any sort of tips you um, would give to other people when making a studio, and how they can make their spaces more inclusive.
Yeah, I think overall, like having a welcoming and positive culture, I think accessibility is really important. Like, especially with COVID, it's really taught us like remote work is possible. People still work from home, and um, and yeah, that lowers a lot of barriers. I feel like I know when I made Captilight, like I was really wanting to have it like not fully remote, but like majority be like work from home. Um, but yeah, I feel like that lowers a lot of barriers, and when you're hiring, like um, just like overall being really flexible.
How people talk about stuff in a space kind of matters, and I don't think that um, everyone necessarily has to agree on everything, because I think there's going to be some sort of level of conflict. But I think that little things that I've noticed that have been, in my experience, that have been kind of indicators that a place is a positive space to be in is like people on my team encouraging me to take mental health days if I need it. Stuff like that makes it feel more welcoming and more
Hmm.
inclusive, um, because your mental health is as important, if not more important, than your job,
Yeah.
and it has a lot of effect on how well you do your job and how you interact with the team. So I think that kind of making sure that people know how you feel about things like that is really important, because sometimes I think it's also easy to assume that people just know that you're chill with something or that you're accepting
Yeah.
of something. But I think for people who are kind of nervous about stuff or kind of on the fence about um, how a space may receive them, kind of taking a little bit of time to kind of talk and get to know that person, kind of put their sort of what's the word, their concerns kind of to rest, and just being like, hey,
Yeah.
so like if you need X, Y, and Z, like we could talk about it, or if you're not feeling up to something or whatever, we could talk about that too. I think kind of just making yourself available, um, as a resource to people for when things get kind of rough really helps.
Yeah.
And um, like I'm not really again, I'm not really looking to make a studio or anything like that. But I think that as a team member, something that is important to do when trying to make a space more inclusive is also kind of um like listening to people and hearing them out with certain um issues that may come up, like I don't know, like if someone is
Mhm.
coming to me asking me about how to solve some modeling problem, and I'm just in the call kind of hashing things out and trying to keep things light, like if they bring up to me that they're really frustrated with something or something's been really bothering them, kind of like giving them the opportunity to like talk a little bit about it, like within their like comfort level or whatever. I think just anything you can do to like make sure that someone feels welcome is just going to make
Yeah.
it more positive. And I know that that's kind of weird with like it's a workspace, not a personal space, but I think and like blurring those lines could be kind of dangerous sometimes, you know, like
Yeah.
people can overstep boundaries or whatever on this
Yeah.
on the giving and receiving end, but I think that there still is a way to kind of like professionally uh keep things open and chill and nice because I don't know. I think it goes a long way when you are more open about things. Puts a lot of fears at ease, especially if you're like a junior or you're just starting out or anything like that. Like you're unsure about anything. It's been a roller coaster getting to this point, you know, and having someone to just be like there for you and kind of listen to what's going on, I think is really positive.
I think you also brought up a good point earlier, Deanna, that being flexible is a good
Mm,
aspect of making a space feel more inclusive, because a lot of times people claim that the applicants group for studios is very small and they have to like just work with what they have. But especially with COVID right now, you don't have to be so narrowed down on I think the applicants group you have just in that city or in that country. Even being even
yeah,
more open just to having people from outside of your country applying to your studio and working remotely really opens up a big candidate pool of maybe even people who never even considered working at your studio because they just physically can't, because they can't move, because they have families, because of visa issues, because they just don't want to maybe move to a certain country. And I've been there, especially. It
yeah,
just closes a lot of doors for you, but seeing that studios are actually open and want to have somebody from a different uh, cultural background or place and don't care that you're not going to be willing to move all across the sea just to work for them. I think that's already a big positive sign as well, because it shows that the studio is like not expecting you to give up your entire life or whatever just to work for them, because that's like this also very unhealthy mentality that the industry sometimes perpetuates, that your job is the number one priority, nothing else in your life matters, you should just be
yeah.
willing and grateful to just like leave everything behind and leave and go for the job. So I think it's great that you're also saying that your studio is trying to be accommodating to that and having people who are, I guess, not physically there in the space with you. Especially now with COVID, it doesn't even matter anymore that much, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, like there's a really large financial barrier and the whole
Yeah,
mental health side of things. Like why should you have to leave your family behind to like go try to pursue your
yeah.
dream in games or um and we actually have because of you mentioned like, being able to have all these applicants, and I know when we are looking for like contractors and stuff, like it really opened up the pool for us. Like we right now we have people in the US, the UK, someone
Oh,
from
awesome.
Macedonia,
Ah, sick.
Hungary. Um, and yeah, it's like this wouldn't have been possible unless we were like, a remote
And
studio.
is it like I don't know, a challenge for you to work that way with people from different time zones and countries? Because that's like another aspect, I guess, people bring up with why they maybe decide against hiring people outside of the country or city or whatever. Because it's a valid reason. Like, of course, you want everyone to be available at the same time. But
Mhm.
has this been an issue for you, or do you think it doesn't really matter? Isn't like a big issue in that sense?
So far, we've been able to work around it. What we do is we have like a weekly team meeting where we pick a time, and we found out that 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is a good time for everybody. So we'll do like our big all hands meeting then, and then we'll do like individual meetings depending on like, if there's anything else
Mhm.
we need to meet about. But a lot of times we use Discord to chat and communicate. So um, a lot of times like we try to be as transparent as possible. So we will try to all of us like talk in the Discord, that way everyone can be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, like having good communication is the key aspect, I think. As long as people talk and say what's up if they need help or anything like that, then I think it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter in what time zone you are or which country. Like, as we know, like we are all sitting somewhere else in the world, and we managed to find a
Yeah,
good time where we all can talk and have a
yeah,
nice conversation. Like it's that shouldn't be like ever the barrier. I think like there is ways for anything to solve it, I think.
Mhm.
yeah. And I think we'll see more. Well, I can hope we'll see more of remote working uh opportunities happening, because like I think that is going to be a key for inclusivity also, is to kind of open up opportunities for people, like as long as they have like an internet connection and they have the skill to kind of just
Yeah,
let them like work. Because I don't know, like it's kind of unfortunate that a lot of studios are kind of like, there's hubs or whatever, and a lot of them are in the West or whatever, and um, like not everyone can move, like
yeah,
we don't know people's family situations or whatever. People could be taking care of like their aging parents, and that really
yeah,
matters to them, so they want to like stay with them and help them out and stuff like that, but they still want to work in game development. And having remote possibilities can like help accommodate people like that, who are otherwise like great artists and just
yeah,
need like the opportunity to kind of get their foot in the door
Mhm.
yeah,
and get started. So it's really cool and neat that you're working with people from all over the world
yeah,
for Captilight. That's good to hear, and I hope that other people will continue to do similar things. So, uh, kind of wrapping up here, if I could even attempt.
yeah. The
If I can even
struggle.
attempt, I know, like whatever, like for people listening, we have an outline that we go through, and like there's a bullet that says final thoughts slash takeaways. And when it's my turn to do it, I panic because I'm like, oh, I have to remember everything that happened in this hour conversation and try to say something about it. But just kind of to wrap up, like I think that this episode has been a little bit more about the inclusivity aspect, and uh, like things that we can do to kind of make sure that people feel welcome, and that places are inclusive safe spaces for people to kind of interact in. And I can hope that as we move forward and as we get more diverse people kind of coming in, bringing their ideas, bringing their history, bringing um, their backgrounds with them, that we can have um, more interesting games and more interesting projects, because I think that's what it ultimately means. When we get more
Yeah,
people involved from different places, we can get some more exciting and cool things happening. So to finalize this all, you can find Deana and her studio Captilight on Twitter and her website, and we'll be including those links in the description box below on whatever you're listening to, YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever. And thank you so much, Deana, for coming on to the podcast and having a good chill time. Hopefully that wasn't too nerve-wracking. Hopefully you'll live.
Oh, that's super fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for honestly like reaching out, because that's something
yeah,
that like,
exactly.
no, well, I don't want to say no one, because our podcast is still very young. It's not even a year old.
Yeah,
But we love to see it. So if people want to bring themselves and be like, I want to be on it, then like I would love to see that email in our inbox, so I could be like,
yeah.
perhaps.
Like yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Deana, and also for having the courage and to write us an email. I think that's amazing. As Ash said, it's exciting to see, and people should put themselves out there more like this. I think it's important, especially when they are doing such great things in the industry and thriving and striving for good things. It's always important to put a spotlight on people like that. So thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
So, and if anyone who's listening, as we said, if you want to suggest somebody or if you would like to come on the podcast like Deana has done, and you think they're a great positive force within their community, along with being great at what they are doing, you can send us an email at allinclusivepodcast@gmail.com. That's all inclusive, no spaces, pdcst@gmail.com. There can be a 2D artist, 3D artist, community manager, studio founder, anything you want. Like, we're really open to having a diverse range of people on this podcast to put a spotlight on a lot of aspects of game development.
For sure. And thank you guys for joining us for the what number episode is this? Seven. Episode 7 of All Inclusive. And we hope that you had as much fun listening as we do talking. You can find us on a couple different social media channels, and you will find these in the description box below. And so far right now, that is going to be on Twitter for our official account, YouTube, and Spotify. Also, I think we're gonna try to include, since Deana has had a some work with Girls Make Games, we're gonna include that link also, so people can learn about that and see what's going on. But yeah, thanks again, and we hope you'll join us again for another episode of All Inclusive.